possible. So deep appreciation goes to the Commonwealth Honors Program, the Business, Legal Studies, and Public Service Division, the Office of Student Engagement, and the Liberal Arts Division. So their collaboration and commitment to justice and education have helped shape this day into something truly meaningful. So throughout the day, we'll engage with powerful voices, explore systemic issues, and participate in community dialogue centered on healing and transformative justice.
Good morning. My name is Maria McDuffie-Clark. I'm the Director of Student Engagement, and I'm so thrilled to have you all here and that these folks organized this along with Kayla Ketteret. Thank you for stopping organizing, and can we give Kayla a hand, please, for having this. So I've been asked, and I'm really privileged to give great and deep gratitude to our incredible community partners. Can we give them a hand, please? They've joined us for this important conversation on healing and transformative justice. They are our neighbors, they are our friends, and we want to thank UTech, Thrive Communities, Merrimack Valley Project, the Urban Restorative Justice Group, Hey Young World Incorporated, MassPIRG, Confronting Injustice Incorporated, and My Beautiful Mind. Thank you. Your presence, your work, and your commitment to justice and healing are what make today possible. We're honored to have you here and look forward to dialogue, connection, and inspiration that will emerge from this gathering. Are we ready? Thank you. Clap.
In just a minute, we'll start screening about 30 minutes of the documentary. Hopefully the lighting in this space works well for us to see. But I'm tasked right now with introducing our student organizer, as this is actually a student-led teach-in or collaborative teach-in between faculty and students and staff. So I get to introduce Kayla. A little bit later, I'll introduce our other moderator, because Kayla will be moderating, Linda Solomon, when she joins us. So Kayla is a student and activist here at Middlesex Community College. She works here to make higher education not only more accessible, but more humane. She's a lifelong advocate and student of the Black radical tradition, and she leads through action, compassion, and solidarity. I'm also very honored to have had the privilege to study with Kayla in several classes over the last few semesters, and to move with Kayla. So we're in the presence of a student exemplar, and we're really hoping that we can continue to grow student organizers and build events like this with y'all. So thank you so much for being here. We're really excited for this day. Thank you to the organizers, thank you to our sponsors, and I'm gonna pass the mic over to Kayla, who's gonna set us up.
Good morning, everyone. How are we doing?
Good.
Good. Okay. Today, we are talking about some serious things. We begin with the truth that the United States criminal justice system is not a broken institution in need of repair. It is a deliberately designed instrument of control. Born from slavery, refined through convict leasing, and fortified by racial capitalism, it has always known its purpose: to turn Black pain into profit and human suffering into social order. What this nation calls law and order has never been about justice. It's been about preservation. It preserves power, not peace. It protects property, not people. As we gather for a community healing through transformative justice, we are not just here to learn, we are here to unlearn. To peel back the layers of Eurocentric education that has taught us to see racism as a glitch in the system, rather than its very operating code. We are here to confront the myths that disguise state violence as safety and punishment as justice. Angela Davis and Michelle Alexander teach us that incarceration is not an evolution of justice. It's an evolution of enslavement. The prison system was built to disappear the poor, the Black, and the marginalized from public life. Today we see that same logic extended to our borders, where mass deportation mirrors mass incarceration. The same cages, the same rhetoric, the same dehumanization, just the latest expansion of this same system. Mass incarceration and mass deportation are not separate crises. They are one continuous project of systemic racism dressed in the language of the law. Malcolm X taught that capitalism and racism are inseparable, that the suffering of one group sustains the comfort of another. Walter Rodney shows us that oppression is engineered, not accidental, a structure built and maintained to serve power. And Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. warned that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. A reminder that we cannot dismantle prisons and ignore detention centers. We cannot fight racism at home while turning our backs to those targeted by those same systems. Today marks the beginning of a journey, not toward new knowledge, but towards truthful knowledge, towards unlearning the narratives that have tamed our anger and numbed our compassion. Because to unlearn is to awaken. To awaken is to resist, and to resist fiercely, collectively, and with love is the only path to healing. So now we're going to screen a little bit of that story and walk us into exactly what we're talking about today.
I think one of the things I noticed was the lack of empathy that the community and the media didn't have. I guess at that time, things were not represented properly, but to not even take a step forward and own, their misrepresentation of what they were doing is unspeakable. I mean, it's terrible.
It's unreal, it's almost unbelievable.
That was really easy to frame him though. I mean, in that environment, like he knew, okay, I can say a black man did it, everyone's gonna believe. He said, I knew a black man did it, and everyone would just believe him and run with it.
Absolutely. And they use just a simple description from, this man who ended up, he committed the crime himself. You're always supposed to look at the spouse first. That's like crime 101. Am I right for my crime people in here? My lawyers.
I ran with it, no waiting with it.
I'm assuming that the journalist who continued to defame Willie after his exoneration is still alive, and I personally think that he should never know peace. So I'm gonna Google him, I'm gonna find his Facebook, I'm gonna find his daughter's Facebook, and I'm just gonna remind them that he's a piece
I
of
want to see
shit.
who that's saying that. Okay. Do that. Please do that for me. Do that for me. Okay. Because I'm Willie's nephew. I'm the guy that was speaking on the screen. And what we went through as a family. What we went through as a family was horrific. Like, it was just a horrible thing that we experienced. What a lot of people don't know, that happened in 1989 to my Uncle Willie. I was arrested and convicted of a murder I did not commit in 1997, and I spent 22 years of my life in jail. I see some of my college classmates in here. You know that, big fella. I see Paps, a few of them. They all in here, you know what I'm saying? And we were wrongfully convicted. I was just exonerated December 4th of 2024. My fellow one of my guys that I used to be in the yard with, Raymond Gaines, he just was exonerated after spending 44 years, 47 years. Big Jamesy, how much you served, Big Jamesy?
41.
41 years.
Minus the death penalty.
And he was sentenced to death. And wrongful conviction.
Wrongfully
Convicted.
In
Like,
fact, they
we
had-
can't even get our lives back. But, we're trying to move forward now and change the laws and make people aware more. I think now the justice system is a little bit better because now we have people that's more familiar with wrongful conviction and how things go, and they still get it wrong, but some of y'all may be a juror one day on a case, and y'all have to really decide somebody's future, and that's the scary part, you know? Being judged by 12 people you don't know, and only know you from what's being told and what they seeing for the next week or two, or how long your trial is. So I'm gonna slow down. I'll wait.
He's jumping ahead for you, giving you a little preview of what's to come. I appreciate you, cousin, every
You know
time.
that.
Absolutely. So we have,
So we're at 47 minutes after, so if you have the time and availability to stay with us, we're actually going to be moving into a panel discussion that Kayla will be moderating and Joseph will be with us, as well as other guests who were just introduced and shouted out. So we'd love for you to stay if you can, and we understand if you have another class. So we're going to take a break, put on some music, and just move our bodies for a little bit, and we're going to come back in about 13 minutes and start with the panel. Thank you so much for your presence.
thank you, everyone.
For this section, and then I will pass the mic on to them. So the first moderator is Kayla Kittredge. Kayla, I'm going to read her bio, if that's all right, just so we have it in the space. But as you can see, many of the bios and also organizational mission statements are also up here on being projected. So Kayla Kittredge is a student and activist here at Middlesex Community College. And as she says, she works to make higher education not only more accessible, but more humane. She is a lifelong advocate and student of the Black radical tradition. She leads through action, compassion, and solidarity. So Kayla, you're probably in the upper room there. Come join us when we have a minute. And our next moderator for this second section is Linda Solomon. Linda has a Master's of Education. She is a dedicated educator, restorative justice practitioner, and equity advocate with over 30 years of experience in teaching, leadership, and community empowerment. Her work is rooted in the belief that true education is both a path to liberation and a process of healing. With a strong background in psychology, counseling, and educational leadership, Linda has devoted more than 25 years to advancing restorative justice as a trainer, circle keeper, and consultant. She has served as chair of the Boston Teachers Union Restorative Justice Organizing Committee and as a consultant with the Boston Public Schools Office of Equity, where she utilized restorative approaches to address complex staff conflicts requiring elevated intervention. A lifelong learner, Linda holds certifications in literacy, youth mental health, and Sawubona healing circles. Her specialized training is in trauma-informed care, social-emotional learning, and post-incarceration syndrome informs her workshops and facilitation, where she skillfully blends psychological insight with culturally responsive, Afrocentric approaches. As the founder and CEO of Sankofa Empowerment Group and co-founder of Confronting Injustice Incorporated, Linda designs and leads programs that address trauma, adverse childhood experiences, the impact of wrongful convictions, systemic oppression, and related issues. Her work emphasizes creating sacred spaces for healing, learning, and reclaiming identity, particularly within communities of color. A proud member of the Association of Black Psychologists, Linda integrates academic knowledge with grassroots activism, ensuring her work remains both evidence-based and community-centered. Whether in schools, correctional facilities, or community circles, her mission is clear: to cultivate healing, resilience, and collective liberation. Thank you both for moderating. The stage is yours.
Good morning and thank you. So we thank you for joining us today. And we're here to engage in a teach-in. And we wanted to be sure that everyone understood what a teach-in actually is, because there's history to it. And so teach-ins are more than just lectures. They're a model for participatory democracy. Teaching started or merged in 1965 with the University of Michigan in response to the Vietnam War. And it was designed as a practical participatory forum in which faculty and students canceled their regular classes to create a space dedicated to education, debate, and action. They would have 12-hour sessions. They recognized that the educational system that they were getting was not addressing what they needed, what they heard on television, what the media was promoting. So they developed this teaching. They came together in a participatory way. Everyone's voice was heard, and they decided that they wanted to come up with some strategies, develop an understanding first, but come up with strategies that were realistic and doable. The tool is applicable to many situations. This is just one. Another could be, food safety. It could be any issue. But the core ideas behind the original teachings are strikingly relevant in our current political system today. Right. Marked by polarization, misinformation, and often rapid reactive discourse. They provide, these teachings provide inclusive and action-oriented experiences, opportunities. So I'm going to stop reading this, but I think the most important thing that we should know is that teaching is a participatory engagement, but it's an opportunity for us to think about what is going on, how to decipher what's true out of what we're hearing, and then to talk about what we can do about it, right? We don't want to just listen to mainstream media. Everyone has a voice, and this teaching, participatory democracy, gives everyone an opportunity to share whatever they have to say, right? And it can be uncomfortable for some people, there's no doubt, because you may learn some things that you were not aware of, like all of these exonerated people, like you wouldn't hear about that on mainstream TV. And so a lot of people think, oh, if you're in jail, you must have committed a crime. And so that might shake sort of what you believe to be true. It might make you question the narrative that you hold true. And so this is a safe space to come together and share and learn from each other.
And where session 1 exposed the machinery of oppression, we now step into its human cause. Today you will hear from people whose lives were stolen by a system built to control, criminalize, and erase. They were wrongfully incarcerated, stripped from their freedom, years that cannot be reclaimed, their stories taken, and yet they refused to be defined by the cages that held them. They fought, they won, and although bittersweet, they transformed their pain into purpose. They became advocates, mentors, organizers, and leaders. They turned injustice and inhumanity into action, proving that resilience, accountability, and healing grow not from punishment or isolation, but from connection, community, and care. Our compass today is shaped by giants Martin Luther King Jr., who taught us that justice must be rooted in love and moral courage. And Ms. Shakur, who calls for collective responsibility and solidarity. And Ms. Angela Davis, who shows us that abolition is not destruction, but the creation of life-affirming alternatives. These panelists live that creation. So gentlemen, I would like to introduce you all to our panelists for today.
Hello.
Good morning. Our next panelist is James Watson. Next panelist is, I call him Raymond Gaines. And next
We next
step.
have Paul
You
from,
might.
right, Paul from UTech over here. We have Mr. Adam Hayes from Hey Young World. And Bernie from Thrive. Thank you, guys. So,
Listen, I think it's important to know that all of these panelists are sharing primary source information. And primary source is critical because it's not hearsay, it's not what someone said, what they heard. The experiences that they're going to share are their lived experiences.
So, Mr. Bennett, I would like to, it is interesting, I noticed that you share the same last name as that person who was just in that documentary we were viewing from this morning. Can you introduce yourself and tell me, is that a connection?
Yeah, that documentary was based around my uncle's life story and what he went through. And I was just narrating what we had experienced as a family in that documentary y'all just saw.
Okay.
And by the way, that documentary won an Emmy Award, so y'all felt the power and the impact of it. It was felt around the world. We won an Emmy Award for that.
Now, can you tell me a little bit about your own personal story and how did the system fail you?
So the trauma and the police corruption, it didn't stop with my uncle. They picked up me January 16th, 1997 and arrested me for a murder. April of 1998, I was convicted of that murder and I served 22 years on that murder, so that April of 2019, I was released because it was a wrongful conviction. So that trauma was not just to my uncle, it continued on with me. And I went through a lot of trauma and turmoil in trying to have people understand and listen that didn't listen.
So, would you say that you were silenced? What was the system?
I think the system failed me when I was a kid. I mean, you know, they failed me from when we was 15 years old, going through what we went through. Like I said in the documentary, I've never seen so many police in my life. I've never been through a lot of stuff. Y'all didn't see a lot of the documentary, so I would encourage y'all to watch it when you get home because, you know, there's some things that was skipped over that is a little bit powerful and impactful that I had to deal with, even revisiting the whole story, putting this documentary together. When I was released, I told my family that I'm gonna make sure the truth is told about that hoax, and that's what we did.
Absolutely, thank you. And if anyone looking to watch that full documentary, we do have that available on Canopy on our library website.
You mean
So
this one?
Yes, the Murder in Boston documentary, the full documentary is on Canopy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, sir. You can just pass the mic right down. Yeah.
All ends address the same question.
So I will ask again, can you please share your story and tell me how the system failed you?
Well, the system failed me back in 1979, when they also accused me of a murder that I didn't commit. Is this going on?
Get a little bit closer.
Yes. Back in 1979, I was 20 years old, and I was accused of killing a cab driver, which was not true. And they came in and locked me up, came into my house, took me out of my apartment. You know, treated me like I didn't belong on the planet. Dragged me out at 3 in the morning, took me out, locked me up, and said I committed a crime, which they know I did not do. They knew they had the wrong type of meal, but it didn't matter. So they weren't happy with that, and it looked like they was failing before I even got the trial. So they said, okay, let's take them down the station, and let's see if we can make them move, so we can kill them. But I don't need for a pistol, so, which is their pistol, and so that didn't work out. I was convicted in 1979. No, I was convicted in 1981. Sentenced to first degree, natural life. But during the arraignment, they was trying to revive the death penalty back then. So the district attorney, and I will always mention his name, Timothy O'Neill, a real scumbag. And he asked for the death penalty. And Judge Irwin was the trial judge, granted it. Knowing that they was going to just take me out of my apartment from my family, my son, who was the only son on the planet, who was 13 months at the time. So I was the first time dad. The happiest man in the world that day. But they came in and shattered it. Took it from me. And I ended up doing 41 years. 41 years. So, and I still get real feelings about this. I'm not talking about, I'm not out for revenge. I'm out for justice. The revenge does not get justice, just more heartache and more trauma. And so, I lost every one of us. Mother, brother, sister, cousin, all day. Never got the chance to see me walk out for free. Just went to the grave. And what happened to me can happen to anybody in this room. It can happen to anybody you know, family, friends. And justice does not discriminate. It just generates. And but here I am.
Thank you. And if you have questions, I don't know if you want to take questions or wait until after. You can jot them down and then ask questions. Because these stories, they're taking a few moments to talk about it, but this spans a lifetime. Raymond Gaines was also 20 when he was snatched away. Raymond, can you just tell us a bit about your story and how the system failed you?
First of all, to keep this in some sort of real context, I've been justice involved ever since I was 10 years old, and I fell through the cracks so many times with the system failing. I was in a situation as a child where I was getting beat with an extension cord as a form of discipline, and going to the schools at that particular time, I was getting the rat tan in school. Anybody that's over 60, they may remember the stick that we used to refer to it as. So I'm just saying I was a product of abuse on a couple of different levels, and going into the school system, it didn't really help. I was somewhat introverted and kept to myself as a child, and going to school, I felt as though the students could see my embarrassment and shame from the things that were happening to me in the home, as far as getting beat with an extension cord and a lot of violence inside my home. So I think as a youth, I made a lot of bad choices and decisions early on that led me into a lifestyle and a culture that, I suffered a lot of pain and trauma due to, the bad choices and decisions and the circumstances that I was thrust in early on in life. By the time I was 13 years old, I was using heroin as a sedative or some sort of magical elixir that was gonna heal all my ails and problems. So I ran to a drug use early on in age, starting with smoking marijuana and other things. By the time I turned 19 years old, I'm saddled with a crime that I have no knowledge of. This crime, they said, took place December the 10th, 1974. And it was less than 14 days before we were getting returned 20, when they accused me of this crime. However, I was shot in both my legs a couple of days before the crime, let's say 6 days before the crime. I was witnessed as being seen on the corner on crutches, but yet I was accused of running down the street, jumping out of a second-story window. Never identified by anyone that had any relation to the crime. However, 2 other people were identified by people that seemed to believe in the crime. And they were released 3 months after being arrested because the father of the son, the father of one of the people that was arrested was an informant for the police that ran an illegal shooting gallery inside the neighborhood. And they had knowledge of him in this business that he was running to let people use syringes in his house for, a fee. And so they were already plugged into him. So when his family members were accused of this, he somehow turned the narrative to point fingers at other people where the evidence wasn't there to support what they were saying. However, I find out in my struggle to get home as I'm fighting against these false claims against me. It's people who don't understand. I know this is just an introduction thing. I'm here. I'm gonna go off script a little bit because don't do it. Don't do it.
Don't go down the gravel.
No, I'm not gonna go down the gravel. No, because I'm a last minute add-on. I came on this panel because Joseph Bennett and I are related through the same police officer. I dealt with this police officer almost 20 years before the Child Stewart case. I did 47 years incarcerated. And this man, I have collected a dossier on him in fighting my own case, Peter J. O'Malley. And I told the brothers that we left behind in prison that's affected by this officer. He's left a continual stain on the community that, it continues on. There's at least 7 guys that I know off the top of my head that I grew up with in my time frame before I got in prison, that are connected to this officer. And I read into their cases, because the cases, when you do law, they sort of like intersect, entwine, because of the laws that could be used in that case could be possibly used in another case that could be germane to my own. So in doing this, I did extensive research on Peter J. O'Malley. And I told the guys left behind that I'm going to turn him into the Andy Dukin of homicides. Anybody from Massachusetts should know who Andy Dukin is.
Who's Andy Dukin?
Don't know?
Who's
Okay.
Andy Dukin?
There you go, right on cue. Andy Dukin worked for the drug lab for the state, and she was accused of dipping and dabbling in the products and changing it out with flowers and other things that, wasn't what it was said to be. And as a result of, her work ethic, a lot of people had their cases overturned and immediately released from prison because anything that she touched became contaminated. So I want to show how Peter J. O'Malley has the same effect in our community, but on a greater scale. It's not about drug addiction, drug use, or the quality of whatever that she was screening. We're talking about lives, people in prison for decades upon decades and still remaining in prison. And that was my incentive motivation for being here today. You know, myself personally. Initially, Pastor Trump.
But before we move forward, I just want to be really clear. The police officer who testified, who's responsible for you going to jail for 40 plus years, as well as you, Mr. Bennett, ran rampant for years. And there are many other people who are sitting in jail right now for life because of this dirty cop.
That's right.
And so, for some reason, the system refuses. So, Raymond Gaines' position is, any case he touched should be reevaluated. The court has already deemed that he was not credible, that he was not an honest cop. The system, but yet these men and women are still sitting in jail, and the system refuses to look at their cases.
This guy's dead, right?
No, he's not.
What? I just Googled it, it said someone with the same name, Boston cop,
Is he-
80 years old,
is he-
dead.
I would.
Oh, he's been dead. They
He
gave-
died, guys.
Oh, he's dead.
Well, you can start Googling William Dunn though, cause he ain't dead,
Right,
he
'cause
just
he's
appeared in
not-
the documentary.
Right.
He was the worst cop.
Listen,
The guy with the eyes.
Yes.
I'm
yes.
gonna pay
Yeah.
some mad sea witches.
Yeah.
You said you Googled Peter J. O'Malley and you found that he's been deceased for what? He's been dead for
2017.
Yes, I got my,
Thank God.
okay, listen, I got my paperwork that, with all the stuff that led to me coming home to get my case overturned and to be exonerated October the 16th. Those, I went to
Then
that.
rabbit hole.
Go ahead, man. I'm gonna come
I wanna
back.
hear it.
I'll come back, come back, come back. This guy's terrible.
Go ahead.
And James is the district attorney that asked for the death penalty is still alive, but not held accountable. Our next panelist.
Hello, next panelist. I'm Pa. Can you share a little bit about your story and how did the system fail you?
Yeah, of course. But first, before I even start, I just want to commend all the men up there. Really, I mean, to revisit trauma, to talk about harm that was inflicted on them again, it's truly like, you know, big push-ups and big, you know, I commend you all just to come in and show the strength to be able to talk about this again, because it's not easy to turn on and off your emotions about it, especially when you're doing this line of work. You know what I mean? So you have to dig in and you have to educate people like this is what was really going on back then. So it's really, it's truly amazing to see the strength in the human numbers here. So. However, I just kind of want to touch up a little bit about what Joseph mentioned about earlier, about how the system failed us when we was kids. I think that's what it was with me. In a sense where like I lived in a household with immigrant parents who escaped the Civil War in Laos, but also the Vietnam War as well. And then, you know, not really having the proper resources here in America. We was in, you know, we was dealing with poverty and really in poverty-stricken neighborhoods here in Lower Mass, by the way. You know, so a lot, you know, because of that trauma that my parents were going through in the country, you know, really ducking bullets and bombs and trying to find safe haven in Thailand to get us over here, you know, they were, you know, they have to deal with another trauma sense here in America as well. You know, I'm not speaking the language, I'm trying to get by, I'm not really understanding like how to move forward with this new life, right? And then you're dealing with an American kid like me, who's really trying to adapt as well and trying to, you know, trying to navigate the world as a problem, right? And it wasn't easy, you know. I mean, I was bullied a lot, I was picked on a lot, I was called names, racial names, all that, you know, and it made me angry, you know. And eventually, I made a lot of poor decisions as a kid, you know. School didn't really help me out growing up, you know. And you see a bad kid in school, they really don't. At that time, I'm not gonna lie, they really stepped away from me, you know, and they really didn't want to handle that because, you know, there was probably too much work for them or whatnot. So, but, you know, eventually I made a really bad decision and was incarcerated for 21 years for homicide. Really just happened like on the street, to be honest. You know, so it's not something that I'm proud of. I took a lot. a lot of work, a lot of healing within myself to really forgive myself for, with all the stuff that, because before I committed harm, right? Before I expressed all this harm on other people, there was a lot of harm that was inflicted on me as well. You know what I mean? So I dealt with a lot of trauma in my household, I dealt with a lot of trauma in my neighborhood, in school, and I was able to kind of like, it took a lot of time to really need to educate and learn about that before I was able to work on myself. So I was convicted of first-degree murder, sentenced to life without parole. I went in at 17 years old. One of the things I want to share about how the system failed me and the criminal justice system was that they labeled me a super predator at the time. So if anybody knows, I'm 45, turning 46 soon. Around that age in the 90s, young people my age, and they're labeled as a super predators, and that kind of trickled down to the criminal justice system, where they were really, it wasn't giving numbers anymore, they were giving out letters, so meaning like you would get life sentences. And I was a part of that wave, and after some years later, the United States Supreme Court recognized how the brain and the adolescent mind doesn't fully develop way beyond 20, 25 years old. With that decision, I was able to have an opportunity to come home now. I think the law changed. I think there was a Supreme Court case in 2012, I believe, and eventually in Massachusetts, they implemented it here in Massachusetts with the chamber case in 2013, and I kind of followed suit after that. So I'm glad that I didn't really let when I was incarcerated, I really didn't let too much stop me from growing. In the beginning, I was trying to caught up in prison politics. I made a lot of poor choices, but eventually, I started thinking about some of the stuff my parents used to teach me growing up. I could still be good at anywhere I can make it. So by thinking like that, I made the choice to really change. Even with a life sentence, I made a choice to really to want to do better and be the person that my parents were capable of doing this. And I started doing programming, and I started getting involved and started working on the process of healing with my, and then eventually when I was able to see parole, they recognized that after some time, and now I'm here, so.
So can you tell me a little bit about your story and how the criminal justice system has failed you?
Alright, so, let me open up like this. Probably this is, I appreciate you guys allowing me to be here. I'm gonna use this time to talk to my cousin down there. So this is how the system failed me. It failed me when they locked him up.
This is my real cousin. So he used to look up to me. He should be at MBA.
Yeah, that was the whole thing. Dude used to pick me up all the time, when I was a kid. Used to come in, take me to all my games, I basically watched everything he went through. So, I didn't know why they locked him up. I didn't understand the situation. I was too young to understand it. Nobody could tell me he did anything wrong. Even if he did, he couldn't tell me he did anything wrong because the dude was like, he was doing stuff for me that, my father, he was on drugs, you know what I'm saying? He wasn't around, so picking me up, taking me to school, taking me to games, just doing everything, I needed to get ahead. So when he got locked up, and then I asked my mother, it was like, yo, they locked him up for a murder that he didn't do. That's when I started seeing, like, it was at a time where I needed somebody because, you know, growing up in the hood, you know, I'm hearing the shots, I'm seeing all that stuff, I'm running to the gyms, you know, trying not to be an innocent bystander, victim, anything like that. But it seemed like all those doors opened up. Like all those possibilities opened up once he was gone. I didn't have no protection, you feel me? So, you know, out of anger, out of being scared and all that, you know, I started carrying guns, I started smoking weed, whatever, you know what I'm saying? Just to, you know, wherever the protection was at, honestly. So, I would say life got crazy for me then. I was still playing basketball, still had my dreams to, you know, get to the NBA, go to college and stuff like that, but a lot of things started happening. I lost a cousin that got murdered for no reason, whatever. That was another impact. Then it seems like the streets knew, yeah, he's a ball player. You know, they would act like they protect you, but they knew he was gone. So, like the dudes that were into the streets, whatever, selling the drugs, the guns, whatever, they were hanging around. But I would say, like, it would be crazy. He would call from prison and just somehow, some way, I'd be in the park and somebody like, hey, pass me a phone, a random person, and he'd be on the phone like, yo. They'd be like, yo, get away from him. Like, I see you. And it's crazy because the people, whoever passed me the phone, the people that was around me knew there was somebody connected to him, so they would back up. So in the phone, he was still there to protect me, but I would say things are really crazy once I got to high school. Like I said, my cousin died, so I didn't understand, like, him being locked up for no reason, my cousin being killed for no reason, just some jealousy. It was jealousy with him, so it was time for me to, like, really just defend myself somehow, some way. Although I didn't want to, it was like, I guess this is it, you know? First thing that happened to me, I got locked up for marijuana, got kicked out. They gave me a second chance because I was a basketball player. They sent me down south to North Carolina, to a basketball prep school. I had scholarships waiting for me and everything. I was supposed to go to Georgia Southern to play ball. They were like sending all the brochures to school and everything. But then one day, you know, just being a kid, sneaking out to try to go hang out. You know, I'm in North Carolina, I'm telling my mom everything's fine, but I'm sneaking outside to hang out with a few kids, go smoking and stuff like that. I was with a kid, me and him, we were real tight. He was from Houston, we was just real tight doing he was real good at football, I was good at basketball. But those were the kids that they attacked a lot, like the streets when they were out there. So, you know, one day we were walking down the street, we were smoking, whatever, and just some random kid, you know, that just knew us from playing ball, you know, they try to pick on the sports kids and just started shooting. And I didn't see it coming, he didn't see it coming, we just started running. I know he fell. I'm just running out of panic mode and I ended up getting shot. It grazed my head and it went through my arm. So now, not only am I off campus, I'm not supposed to be, I got a big game the next day, I'm shot. So I had to get myself to the hospital, I was panicking, I felt like I was about to die, honestly through anxiety. I get to the hospital, they're like, I hear the doctors talking, basically like, they might have to amputate my arm because the bullet wedged in between my arms. So now I'm thinking about basketball, I'm thinking about being off campus, thinking about my mother whooping my ass, everything. And I'm just like, no, y'all gotta do what you gotta do, I don't care. So long story short, they got majority it out, and I had snuck back on campus. My arm was swollen, I put a band on it, and we was playing like Fork Union, so big school, bunch of kids going to D1, so Virginia. So I'm riding on the van, my arm swollen, messed up. Coach put me in the game. I'm trying to score, I'm trying to do everything, but I'm left-handed. And my left arm is shot. So I'm missing shots, whatever. I go for like with the right hand, the coach was like, he called the timeout, he was like, what the fuck are you doing? Shoot with your left hand. Smack my arm, I'm like, oh shit. And my roommate knew about it. And I'm like, that. Long story short, it got out there that I was off campus, I got shot. The school didn't accept it, they kicked me out. They told the college, don't take him, he's out here doing this and the third. So I got shipped back to Boston. Scholarship gone. Mom didn't know what happened. They told her what happened. From there, this is 2000. I think my father passed away that year too. So all the doors closed. Everything it was over from there. Started getting into the streets. But the crazy thing about the story related to wrongful convictions from there, I want to say the first situation I had when I got back was being charged for armed robbery. I don't know where the hell that shit came from. I don't know where it came from. But I know one thing for sure, that they knew I was related to this dude. Because the first thing they said, like, oh, you related to the Bennetts, huh? I'm in the station like, what the hell's going on? I literally had to go to trial with some person I've never seen in my life before. Mind you, I was probably 140 pounds soaking wet. They said the person was medium build, 200 pounds, this and the third, and they still took me to trial for it. They still took me to trial for it. I had this guy saying I did it. I'm like, I'm losing my mind. I'm like, I don't even know what the hell's going on. But by the grace of God, I ended up beating that, but I still felt the pain about being charged with somebody saying I did something I didn't do, and I know the police put this person up to it. I still deal with the devil a little bit, but then I go to this man's story about the Annie Dukin. I was one of the persons charged in the Annie Dukin thing. Another situation where they said I served undercover cop. I'm like, I don't know what these people, now I like I said, I was indulgent things, but I never served an undercover cop. They never showed evidence of it. It was, to me, at this time, the pressure was too much to be dealing with, so I ended up copping out to 4 years. It's crazy, but I mean, the positive out of it, I was locked up with this dude. I got to spend time with my cousin. I got to get, I got some help from a lot of people. I mean, I was able to play basketball. I was able to see some of my friends that made it. A couple of my friends made it Division I. Another kid that grew up underneath me ended up making it to the NBA. I was proud of them. Honestly, I was, the time that I did, it kind of just didn't matter because I was able to spend time with my cousin, so. By the time the Annie Dukin came up, I was already, I think 30 days left to wrap up. So I already did 4 years. And then when I got out, the attacks just kept coming, so, I ended up getting locked up again. I think it was a follow-up to that, so, overall I did about 12 years in and out the system. It's tough because I know a lot of people that's been through the situation. I actually was cutting his hair before they did you when he was doing 40 years. So, I met a lot of people along the way. The time that I did, it hurt. The last time I did, I had a 1-year-old, my son was 1, and just seeing him leave out, I knew I had to make some changes. So, now, I do a lot of things in the community. I work with a lot of kids. I let them know my story, because eventually these kids might face the same situations, So, that's basically what I do in the community. I'm trying to save lives. I'm trying to, any kids that might be going through the same thing I'm going through, be a voice for them, and lead them in the right direction. But I appreciate you guys hearing my story. Appreciate you guys for everything you did.
I never heard this. He never shared this. Today's the first time I ever heard this story, so this is not rehearsed. He just now opened up in front of y'all. He never told me this. He probably wouldn't have never told me this if he was with y'all. So I'm touched, thank you, and I
Appreciate
appreciate
you.
Before I let our next panelist, I think all of us are touched by that story. And I want you to think about while you're listening to these stories that the common thread or theme is systemic injustice. It wasn't just one case, it wasn't just a betting case. Each of these men, and they're just a small sample of what really happened. Just a very small. Systemic racism throughout this. So we want you to keep that in mind. And the other thing is, if you see these men walking the street, you would never think that they were emotional, that they had these feelings, that these are real people with real feelings, real families, whose life was, I say, decimated, not just them, family members as well. This is.
Alright, so it affects more than just our individuals, and we are going to get back to story time quite soon. What I do want to mention now is my father has joined us on this panel today. That's my cousin who just spoke right there. These two gentlemen are family by extension, and I think that we all are now. And then that's my cousin at the end right there. I met my two cousins and my father all behind bars. They were all locked up together for most of my life. I remember meeting two for the first time and writing back and forth, and I thought like, oh, I finally have family members. I remember it's the same for my dad, and I said the same for Ace, like Adam. You know, it's not just these individuals that are serving time, it's their families, it's entire communities that serve that time together. But bringing up our focus back, can you please tell us a little bit about your story and how the justice system has affected you?
Absolutely. So thank you all. I appreciate being here. Thank you all to the men who spoke before me. Thank you so much. That your vulnerability, brother. Thank you for that. Thank you. Thank you for that. It takes strength, you know, word takes strength. For me, the system I think was designed to fail me. You know, I grew up generations of poor and impoverished family members and people, right? And so, you know, they say that we slip through the cracks. I just believe that those cracks are designed to be wide enough for some people to fall through, some demographics that kind of make their way down there. So I believe that myself and many of my family members fall into that category. The system failed me in many ways, many times over the course of my life. It began, you know, as a child when you know, my mother got involved with a man who was selling drugs, and you know, we lived in a small housing project up the street, and he brought violence into my home. You know, 2, 3, 4 nights a week, you know, he would savagely beat my mother up. And you know, as an 11-year-old kid, or any child worried about the safety of their mother, right? It just inflicts this damage and this trauma inside of you, you know? And so I was harboring that, just holding all that in. You know, I started wetting the bed from fear, you know, and it took 2 years, you know, for me to finally, I had enough of that. Something inside me broke, and you know, my father had passed away, who wasn't living in the home with us, but my father committed suicide. And I didn't know how to process that. I always, in the back of my mind, hoped that my dad was coming back to get this guy out of here. Like, my dad's gonna come back, right, to get him out of here. It didn't happen, that didn't come to fruition. Instead, he took his own life, and, you know, at some point, something broke, and I had to, in my mind, through the trauma and all these, you know, this programming that was already happening in my world, I had to be the man of the house, you know, and I had to protect my mom. And so, you know, I finally stood up to him and I beat him up with a baseball bat. And for the first time in my life, I felt power, right? I felt like I was actually in control. For the first time in my life, I'm in control. And so that really hurt me. That sent me off in a direction that I really never needed to go down. I carried that same violence out to the street because that was the only way I felt I could be heard, you know? And I took a lot away from myself. And but one thing that I will highlight with regard to the system failing me is a couple years later, at 15 years old, again, we grew up impoverished, you know, never had much. And you know, when you're in the streets every day, all day, you start to realize that there's different outlets to gain financial gain, right? There's different ways to make money in the street, you know? And so I started to, you know, I wasn't much of a drug dealer, I wasn't much of a money guy, you know, but I got my hands on a weapon, you know, and I found the money guys, and I entered their homes, and I took their money. At 15 years old, I started doing that. And so I was arrested for a home invasion at 15 years old. And I was tried as an adult. They sent me to MCC, I was 17 years old. And so there's many of you probably don't know, there's a two-part hearing that takes place when this happens. Part A, Part B. Part A is probable cause. Did you even maybe commit the crime, right? That was easy enough to find. And then Part B is, can you be helped in the juvenile system? Can they help you, right? It's kind of a broad, generalized question if you ask me, you know? And so throughout the course of me waiting trial, I was still in UIS, in the juvenile system, and I was interviewed by, you know, psychologists over here, psychologists from this side, defense, this, that, the state, you know, all these different people coming to talk to me. And I'm just being honest, right? I'm flourishing in the UIS. Like, I'm doing great in school. I'm like, wow, I actually don't have to listen to someone getting beat up every night. And believe it or not, I flourished, you know? I thrived in it, believe it or not. And then, you know, at my hearing, every person that interviewed me, I'm listening to you know, their results from the interview and the notes that they took. And I'm hearing it, and I'm like, I'm gonna be okay. I'm gonna stay in the juvenile system. I'm not gonna go upstate. Because what they're saying sounds real, sounds legit. But it was just one report from a woman at the end. I'll never forget her. Helen Berry was one of the chief probation officers in Lowell District Court. And she interviewed me. Didn't know me from Adam. Wasn't my own probation officer. It was this woman. And her whole report, to me, spoke that I was ready to be healed. Like, I could stay in the juvenile system and I'm good. And so I'm really thinking I'm going to the UIS. Honestly, I'm thinking I got over it, to be honest with you, at the time, right? I'm like, yeah, got him. Yeah, they got me, believe me when I tell you. Because her whole report seemed to be well enough. But her last sentence was, due to Mr. McCabe's age and the seriousness of the offense, I don't believe the juvenile system can help him. And it was that one line that got me sent off to state prison, you know? And then what happens when you go to state prison as a teenager? You know, I tell you, I didn't go to Norfolk with men like this. I didn't go with these guys, you know what I mean? That put me on. Eventually I made it that way. But, so no, I learned how to be a better criminal, right? I came home, barely 21 years old at the time, and I'm like, what do these kids know about my life, right? And so this gigantic chip was just on my shoulder, and I carried it, and it ultimately led to me reoffending, going back to prison, where I ended up making my way to men like this that changed my life, you know? So I'll keep that short. I'm just gonna highlight that one particular way that the system let me down. Believe me, I could go on and on about different ways that this happened in my life, you know? But I feel like that was the major setback for me. You know, you subjected me to men that weren't interested or invested in me being better as a human, you know? So I went and I ran, and ultimately though I got activated. I woke up, you know, so I'm blessed.
Oh, come on now.
First, I want to take this time to thank everybody that sat up here this morning as we look through, and just so that everybody really truly understands the ramifications of this justice system. There's more than 150 years of life that's been taken away from these gentlemen, including myself sitting here. There's another gentleman in the back, Robert, who's been the social butterfly out front for anybody that's my two cousins, as Kayla pointed out to you, how she was introduced to them, we were all still intertwined with my brother-in-law, Willie Bennett, whom and we all just found out last 2024, that 34 years ago, when they conducted the raids on our houses, they hit 4 houses at the same time, looking for my brother-in-law. When they ran in the houses, they put guns in everybody's faces, including the children. We all didn't become knowledgeable about this, again, until 2024. They, at that time, Michelle Wu offered an apology to our family. And then in the same breath, she said, but there's no compensation, monetary compensation that will come due to the turmoil of what they've caused throughout the family's lives.
Say that again? No compensation?
There was not going to be any monetary compensation is what she initially told the news reporters and anybody when she was asked in the interview about the apology and that it took them 34 years to apologize to our families for what they did.
And the rationale for no compensation was what?
There would be no monetary compensation, she said.
Did she say why? What the rationale was?
No, she didn't, I don't believe.
I'll say this. Initially, that's what was said, but I'm aggressive and I'm assertive. So there was compensation for my uncle a year and a half later. You know, it was in the newspaper. You can Google it. She gave him $100,000. You know, but yeah, that's it. That was the only compensation. But for me, money wasn't it. I just got a street name after my grandmother that was in that documentary because I felt like she needed to have some type of compensation. And we just, September 6th, we got a street name. It's called Pauline Bennett Way. It's in Mission Hill Projects where we grew up at, where I literally on Monday night just took a bunch of students like y'all through my neighborhood and showed them the street because that's how dedicated I was to making sure that the city acknowledged my family in some way, some shape or form.
And as you said, as appreciative as we are for that, it's a small Band-Aid over an open gash wound. The way that the police came after me and my family after this incident happened, and they came at us at all different times, as you can see. The way that the system had, for me personally, felt that it had let me down was up until that point, I was a Bible carrying kid going door to door, knocking on doors, and figured that as long as you did what you were supposed to, the law is supposed to protect you. The police are supposed to be a safe haven for you. To have them run up on my family and to have us treated the way that they did, they shattered all of that. And they did it so recklessly they didn't care. So for myself, I had become disenfranchised with what the whole legal and justice system was. At times, did I make the wrong decisions? Absolutely. The curse was being taken away from my child, being taken away from my family outside. The undercoating is I saw my family locked up, and that's sort of a screwed up way of looking at a family reunion when there's enough of us that are incarcerated behind things that Adam and I were roommates in a drug treatment program that Joseph was in, so we all were on the same unit together. So that's literally how we all got to see one another, and that's how, through proxy of Kayla coming up to visit me while I was locked up, that she got to meet her family members. The thing also that I wanted to say that I'm very proud of is you see all these gentlemen here doing positive things. So this flies in the face of what the legal system says, is that everybody's being locked away because they're no good to society, and we are proving every day that there's a bunch of strong men that have been illegally convicted, and guess what? They didn't come out of prison bitter. They came out and they're making a difference in their communities, each one of us separately.
Can we talk about that? Can we talk about how each of them are making a difference in their communities? Guys, what are you doing? I'm gonna have you just take this mic and we're gonna go right down. You still, no.
I see you said the 5-minute mark, so we gotta keep this short.
Well, I think what she wants to do right now is how do you all make a difference in the changes that you made in your life?
So after your case was overturned, how did you turn your pain into advocacy or activism? Please mention the work that you do.
So my case was never overturned, rightfully so, right? I was where I needed to be for some time, right? And what do I do now? I work at Thrive Communities. We're based here in Lowell. We work in reentry, and we assist the brothers and sisters returning home from incarceration. Our mission statement is to empower the community, to welcome and support the brothers and sisters coming home from incarceration, so that's what we do. You name it, all types of resources and support. We can do anything from help you get your ID to help you actually go to the RMV and get your license. And we even will have somebody drive over there with you and let you use their car. You know, you name it, we do pretty much everything in Thrive. Anything and all things reentry, we're here to support, you know.
Right now, I work for the city, in the community center in Boston. As an athletic assistant, I also started my own nonprofit called Hang in the World. I'm just trying to give kids I think the school system, the curriculum is, I don't know, college is probably good, but for younger kids, they're not really learning what they need to survive today, you know. So I just take kids, man, I take them around, educate them, out of the Science Museum, ancient artifacts. I'm trying to plan to get some kids to go to a college tour, you know, just give them something outside this regular school curriculum. And underneath Hey Young World, I have a basketball program, an AU program called Fit for War. Fit for War Elite. So, you know, I coach in a lot of programs. Basketball sports is very expensive right now. I'm trying to cut the costs down. So right now, whether it's sponsoring the kids doing fundraising, I'm trying to cover all the costs for these kids. I have kids from ages 8 all the way up to 17. A lot of kids that have been with me for 4 or 5 years, and you know, just giving them opportunities that maybe their families can't afford. You know, play these high-end basketball tournaments, and you know, get them outside the city. You know, giving them an opportunity. So that's what I'm doing right now, and you know, it's not making no money right now, but you know, it's keeping kids safe. It's keeping me keep my, you know, I didn't make it in college, you know, I didn't get to the NBA where I wanted to, but I could help some kids, you know, so I'm still staying alive through the sport.
I myself, I work for UTEC on the reentry team. I don't know if you guys know where UTEC is. It's literally like across the street right here. You probably see that big building. So UTEC is an organization, a nonprofit organization that services young people between 18 and 25 that are proven risk. So most of the young people that we are in contact with are either gang members or criminally involved. We know they could be carrying or could not be. But like we have an outreach team that goes on to the community, whether it's like a house sponsor, like with a hangout to the courts, to wherever it is, to kind of go and encourage the young people to come into our program where they have access to mental health, education, vocational programming from like culinary arts to woodworking, and also just, you know, a whole bunch of mentors in there that have lived experience that could help guide them in the right direction. So we do the best we can to have all these wraparound services for them. And my role as a reentry manager, I go behind the wall and I work with and meet some of the young people who are at behind the wall and do you know, run circles in there and build relationships with them and help them with the transition back into the community. So that's what I do, and I love doing what I do. Who would have thought that after coming out, I've been home at 5 years old, be too long, but you know, going back behind the walls is not an easy thing. You know, I have to go back there to hear the keys shake again, the door slamming, the people yelling from tier to tier. But I know I'm going there for a purpose to help these young people so that they come home and have a better life. So.
And just so that everybody understands, when he talks about going back behind the wall, he's going back into the prison systems to actually help individuals.
I've been home now for a little bit more than 4 years, and you know, all my life I've been actively involved in something, one way or another, in some form of activism or some form of rebellion, fighting against some sort of injustice or something that didn't sit right, or something that didn't sit right with me. So, hence, I've given myself the Rebel Without a Pause. That's my mission of the program that, you know, my nonprofit that I started. I'm talking to the youth, because I was justice involved at 10 years old, and I felt through the cracks on so many levels where the system failed me. I want to talk to the kids and tell the girls about making the wrong decisions and choices early on in their life. And sometimes it could take you the rest of your life to dig your way back about the hope that you dealt for yourself the wrong choices and decisions. So I'm passionate about dealing with the kids, and I'm looking forward to making cooperative partnerships with anybody that have initiative that lead into some sort of adolescent and young adult mentoring. And I want to bring back, at some point in time, if I can figure out how to do that, I want to bring back the skills to pay the bills back into the community. I think that not everyone is technology savvy or know how to work with computers and things. I think somewhere along the line we got bamboozled and taken away from, the things that was sustaining middle-class families and, keeping families, with groceries in the refrigerator and, being able to sustain themselves. I think that they systematically took those vocational skills out of the schools, out of the OICs and the ABCD programs, and redirected people's energies. But when I was incarcerated as a plumber for over 29 years, I did that between that and teaching the school to help guys prepare for their GED and basic college exams. So my energies is going to be directed in where I feel my passion lies. So I want to be an educator. I want to mentor young people and do the things I said. But I'm also affiliated with the New England Innocence Project, who helped me, assist me coming home. And I'm with it's on the READ network where I work as a peer advocate and a resource and development coordinator.
And since I've been out, I've been out going on about 5 years now. I've been out. And just recently, a couple of years, me and my fiance, Mrs. Sullivan, we got together and created an organization called Confronting Injustice, where we do basically the same thing the gentleman Nate was talking about. Supporting men and women. We gotta come out. But it's just not the men and women, let's not forget. They're locking up children. They're locking up children. Not just men and women, they're locking up children. If you're 15, 16, you ain't wrong. You don't know shit. You know what I mean? But how to ride your bike and turn around there when it's mealtime. They're back in the fridge. You know what I mean? So, we're trying to help everybody. They're coming out and trying to prevent those from going in. And at the same time, let's don't forget the victims. Because now, they have no cause. I wanted to mention that earlier. I was exonerated. My co-defendant, which is another person that they had put in custody with me behind this crime, we had just turned 16 years old. Just turned 16, locked him up for 38 years. 5'4", weighing probably 125, 135 pounds. And they threw him in a penitentiary. As fish bait. I mean fish bait. You going in there prison not knowing nothing. You see guys walking around lifting up cars. When I say cars, I mean weights. And then they're predators. They got predators out here, they got predators in there. But ain't nobody messing with them. Ain't nobody messing with them. He can't do it, but he's out, and he's still messing. You know what I mean? Because you stop growing, so to speak. Because what you gotta grow up to, what you gotta look up to. Gods, shake you down, strip you down. It's, You come in, you step out the unit, you go to talk to somebody, they think you did something wrong. It's like on the street. So they take you in there, say, all right, strip down naked. You know what I mean? Bend over, spread your cheeks, lift your feet, lift your genitals. Open your mouth, take your tongue. For what? And this is constantly. Now, we didn't do nothing wrong to get in there, but that's what we had to suffer when we got in.
But even if you did something to get in there, it doesn't justify any
No,
behavior.
it doesn't. It doesn't.
Sure.
It doesn't.
And most people don't want to talk about that because, for obvious reasons, but it's real. So thank you, James, for sharing.
Yard time, that's for me. Yard time, and that's the only joy I used to find in the jails. When my visit didn't show up, when I didn't get no letters, when I couldn't get them on the phone, the next best thing was when the CO yelled, yard time. So that's when I started an organization called Yard Time. You can Google me, you'll see me coming out the courthouse before anybody knew what Yard Time was. It was Yard Time. Yard Time is a nonprofit organization that I founded, I created to support men coming home, because when I got out, I went to an office of returning citizen and they had nothing to offer me. And this is a big organization that supports people that's coming home. So I created Yard Time. I created it, with another person. We focus on reentry, like these guys in the city of Boston. I have a men's group that I serve, started from 2021 and it's still running. We run every Tuesday night. The most I had was probably 48 guys. The least I get is 6 guys a week, and those are the guys that are committed to trying to better themselves. And, a lot of these guys used to call me quietly and be like, yo, how you surviving? How you adapting? I used to tell them I ain't surviving and I ain't adapted yet. So, I know we won't talk to a therapist individually, but coming from generational trauma and harm and all that, we could talk to each other in a group setting, because that's what we was just in when we was incarcerated. It's always groups. So that I knew once I created that group that one person may not relate to you, but somebody else can relate to you. And we serve the community. Our thing is empowering lives and rebuilding community. And to me, I'm gonna say this, yeah, I did get in a situation where I was wrongfully convicted and been through things, but prison failed me. But I'm gonna also tell you, everybody that I ran with in my neighborhood is dead. Prison saved my life, because I would have been dead, because I was on a fast track to gang banging and running the streets. Listen to what I'm saying. I had a crew of 20 guys. 16 of them are dead. They died while I was in prison. Shot, stabbed. I came home to a new bunch of friends that I didn't know, but then I had to regroup and go back to the guys that I did know that I just did the last 22 years with. And I have a whole bunch of new friends that are not getting in trouble, so it's easy for me not to get in trouble. And I'm bipolar, so I deal with mental health. You never know. My partner's back there. She don't know who she's gonna get when she wakes up in the morning. You know what I'm saying? So this is real. Like, trauma is real. Like, we were really affected by incarceration. I'm 51 years old. Like this brother, I was in and out of DYS. Right now, today, I could proudly say that I have no supervision whatsoever. All my life, I was on probation, parole, prison, but today, for the last 6 years, well, a year ago, I should say, because that's when I was fully exonerated, it feels so good to not have to answer to nobody. I don't have to go see a PO. I don't have to worry about a PO coming to my door, police officer, because I'm not involved in that anymore. So I commend all y'all guys that made the change.
I know that some of you have another class you might have to go, but I want to thank the panelists. And I want to say, many people are not aware that spending time in jail, particularly when you spend a lot of time in isolation, you develop what is called post-incarceration syndrome. No one, if someone goes to jail for something they did, they go to jail, that's the punishment. It's not you develop this mental health related bundle of concerns as a result of being in jail, and that's exactly what happens. You develop post-incarceration syndrome, and it's serious and it's real. But that's another conversation. I would love to invite Robert Eldridge to come up. He's going to introduce.
That was our paralegal back there.
Yes.
Everybody law.
Not just here in classrooms or out in the streets or out. Community is found everywhere, and we are everywhere. That is the resistance. And this gentleman was that driving force from behind the wall and now continues that work outside. Mr. Robert Eldridge.
Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I want to say my name is Robert Aldridge, and yes, I was a jailhouse lawyer. A lot of these guys know I was a paralegal, still am, still is. And since my return to society, I created a couple nonprofits, but I have Boston Paralegal Services, which is my legal services that I provide to the community. Boston Paralegal Services. I also started Urban Restorative Justice Group. As you see, it's highlighted on the prompt up there, and it's a different approach to rehabilitation. I believe after my 35 or 36 odd years in prison, that I had a different approach to rehabilitation, contrary to the approach that's been in existence for the last 70, 80 years. Obviously, it's not working. It's not working. The recidivism rate numbers dictate. When the recidivism rate is high, there's a reason for that. Whether it's socioeconomic, systemic racism, whatever it may be, it's just not working. Linda Solomon is part of the Urban Restorative Justice Group through her initiatives with confronting injustice. So we all are partners here. We all kind of work together. We know each other, so to speak. But I don't want to take a long story. I don't want to take a lot of time. People got other things to do. First thing I want to do is engage the audience. Does everyone understand that we're here for community healing? Say yes. Yes. Say yes. Yes. Okay, say yes. Yes. Does everybody also understand that we're here through transformative justice? Yes. Say yes, please. Yes. I don't want to know that we're just here wasting our time and you're here for the free lunch. Okay? So these men up here, and I just want to make one comment about these men. This is real. Hopefully none of you will ever experience what these men experience. You don't always learn by success. The best teacher is by looking at the failure of the system and those who were victimized by the system. Learn by that. These stories these men shared was very, very real. Not make-believe. This is reality, cold reality. And so as you people go forward, and I'm not saying you people like you people, I'm saying as you people go forward, you may become lawyers, doctors, judges, join the establishment, the system, make that change. That's that transformative justice we're looking for. Again, we're not just here to bring up a bunch of men that were formerly incarcerated, including myself. We want you to be the change. What does change look like to you? Every one of you can make a change. Every one of you. That guy way back there. Hey, how you doing? That woman way over there. You all can make a change. Please do so. Let this time not go by. This moment in time will probably never repeat itself. Never repeat itself. When you leave here today, you're going to meet all of these gentlemen. You're going to take a little bit of some of them with you, and you're going to share that with other people. And you're going to carry it into your classroom, into your, share it with even your family members. You may meet people who are troubled, who are involved in the system some kind of way, and say, hey, you know what? I was just at a meeting with a guy that just spent 42 years in prison that was on death row. He was supposed to be executed. Y'all get that? Does anybody get that part? For real. He was supposed to be executed. and he was wrongfully convicted. So, if someone said one time, I'd rather let 10 guilty men go free than convict one innocent man. I don't know who said it, but it was something that stuck in my mind. So when you hear these men's stories, and you hear how many of these men were exonerated, exonerated means more than just the word exonerated. Families, lives, children, lots of stuff got destroyed in the process. I don't want to take up much more time. I just wanted to share that with you. It's not about Robert. It's about these men's experience. It's about healing in the community. And it's about transformative justice. Can I get the audience to say yes? Yes! 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 All right. Thank you very much.
Raymond just told me that Rob worked on this case. He got his first appeal, right?
No. I've known Rob for a great many years, man. We go back before my incarceration. So over the years, he's always been like a mentor, somebody that I look to for advice and guidance in areas where I wasn't that educated. He's always been versed in the law. I don't know if he was practicing law on the street while he was hustling and stuff too. I don't know, but he really, acute of skill with law. So I used to go to him and get advice, and I put in 4 motions for a new trial, and on the 4th one, I successfully made it to get the new trial. But without the help of Bob doing the motion for the particulars, the Rule 30, not the Rule 30 motion, but just for the documents that they was withholding. Any documents for, you're a legal person, what am I supposed to say again? What was it that you did, discovery motion? Exactly, the discovery motion and bill of particulars, a whole bunch of things that was germane to my case that I request that every 4 or 5 years I would do that as a general routine because I had no business being there, and I know it had to be some sort of breadcrumb somewhere that would show what I had been saying all along, that I had no involvement in the case. But the last time that I filed for documents, he did the motion for me, and I successfully got some stuff that they had been saving for, that they had been hiding for 29 years. When I put in that request, I was already, 44 years into my sentence when I finally got these documents that led me to get out. But Rob was responsible for that.
Brilliant. She really is intelligent, as is all of you. And we have no idea what your full potential would have been had you not been snatched away and put in a cage. Kidnapped. Incarceration just sounds like too easy for what happened. It just doesn't sound like it's serious enough. But in the spirit of a teaching, this is about sharing information, right, and strategizing. And we have someone from the audience who has a similar situation that would like to share a bit.
Hi everybody, my name is Jess Selena. I am currently a paralegal major here at Middlesex, and I do plan on transferring to UMass to continue my education. I have been asked several times, what do I want to do with my degree? Do I plan on being a lawyer? I don't think I'm going to pursue that. One thing that has interested me since I started paralegal is I really want to help those who are incarcerated. I currently have a loved one who was wrongfully convicted. Thankfully for him though, he only has about a year, only 4 more months till he's done and hopefully out. He doesn't plan to reoffend. But I'm personally kind of going through this, and I'm very glad that I was able to make it here. I missed most of it, but from what I heard from being here, I feel even more strongly about it. I intend on hopefully making a difference like all of you, and I'm really glad that you guys are all out, that nothing else has kind of happened, that you didn't go back down a bad path, or if you were wrongfully convicted and never really offended. I'm glad that you didn't use that to then offend, because that is what happens. You go to jail and then that is all you know. That's kind of what you get accustomed to. You adapt to the bad and you come out just like, oh, well, I was in prison, so none of this matters. But thank you so much, guys. I would like to connect with you further because I have been wondering where I should start on my journey once I graduate. Because I wasn't sure where to go, who to turn to, and I'm really glad that you guys came and shared your stories. Thank you.
Again, I want to thank the panel, and I don't want you to leave yet. We'd like to open this up for questions, comments. In the spirit of a teaching, it's about us learning with and from each other and strategizing and taking away actionable steps, right? It's not enough to just hear these stories. They're not just stories. They warrant, require, demand some response, some action. Yes.
My name's Andrea, and I am a recovering heroin addict, and I wanted to just commend everybody up here that has been focusing on their mental health and the substance use. I'm a street outreach worker in Lowell, and I'm an alcohol and drug counselor, and something that I try to focus on when I'm in the community is breaking down stigmas and harm reduction, because I feel like people judge with their eyes and they have their fingers in their ears. And during the week I do go behind the wall in Billerica, and I run some groups with individuals that are there, and if more people chose to listen, we would be able to have a more humanistic connection with each other, and we could work as peers and bring forward what we've learned from our own lived experience. So I just wanted to let you know that I've learned so much from everybody up here, and I feel reignited to continue my journey on this path, because sometimes we get stuck in our mundane world and we forget, you know, what our real mission and passion is. So I just want to say
Questions, comments?
No one else has one yet. We could just go over those names, just let me add to this list. So we have Peter J. O'Malley. Okay. And then Helen Berry, she's on my shit list as well. Who else?
Robert Myrna, Bob O'Leary, Thomas O'Leary, Juan Torres, William Dunn.
There was just another name, I believe it's the name you mentioned.
William Dunn, or his, I said William Dunn, that's the guy from my documentary. That's the guy that started causing harm in my neighborhood. If you've seen in the documentary, the first thing I mentioned was he used to be decent, but then he got a Bronco and he used to chase us, and he would jump over the sidewalk, he would knock me off a dirt bike. He was the worst of the worst. He was the worst of the worst. And you've seen it in his face. When you watch the documentary fully, he is the only police officer that participated in it because he's a narcissist and he wanted to be on camera, but he didn't know how the documentary was going to shape up to make him look like the person that he really was. And you see, he says, I like being good to the good and bad to the bad. And when he says good to the good, he meant his informants, his snitches, and people like that. And when he said bad, when I tell you bad, it was like, he did things like that. Like he ran that neighborhood. That was his neighborhood. You know, so when you watch the documentary, he'll tell you his first interaction ever with my uncle is he said, my uncle told him, if you get in my way, I'll kill you. And he said, well, I think I'll kill you first. So that was easy for him to go get my uncle because they already had formed an opinion of who that person was, you know? And the worst part about this documentary that we found out as a family was that the whole Stewart family knew that this man killed his wife. They helped carry her to the grave, the brothers. There's a phone call where the sister said, it's gonna get worse. We can't, We didn't know that. We didn't know any of that until the documentary. This is traumatizing for me all over, but I'm here. I'm okay, I'm good. These are some strong shoulders.
If I could respond though to that, it's not like, you might not think that your siblings, your brother, your sister, your best friend is capable of violence, but like those two brothers knew that he committed the murder, that he killed his wife, and they hid that. And like, I'm a survivor of domestic
The whole
violence.
family knew. The sister knew.
No, I sent video to
And
my
you have to understand
abuser.
that they allowed that to go on.
They do.
From October until January 4th.
Yes.
When it came out. So the city was still upside down, and there was so much racial tension and hatred. Like, when they arrested him in Burlington, my mother lived in Burlington, Mass. Mission Hill, it's 99.9% black folk. Burlington, Mass, we were one of 3 black families or 4 black families in Burlington at the time. So to see this black man that they were accusing of being a baby killer, because that's what they labeled my brother-in-law, and to shoot this fine, upstanding couple from Reading in Mission Hill. They literally demonized our house, my mother's house. She ended up having to move out of Burlington behind the lot. You know what I mean? They burned down my mother's house. There was a quote-unquote fire that happened in my mother's house, and she ended up moving to Georgia while we were locked up together. But that's the reality of what, as he said, we were dealing with. And we didn't address any of it until 2024, when we all met up as a family collectively and started talking about this. Like,
We never talked about it for 34 years. We didn't talk about it. That documentary brought our family together to talk about it. We never talked about it as a family. Never. We never talked about it. Then one day we held a conversation for the public after the documentary was shown, and that was the very first time as a family we all talked about it.
That we knew that they raided 4 houses.
4 houses.
That we knew that they put guns in everybody's faces, including 6-year-old children, 4-year-old children. Why would you feel the need to pull a gun on a child? And to have those children sit up on stage with us, our cousins, our siblings, and to talk about the trauma that they experienced behind this was something that, as you said, pissed me off all over again, because it was like we didn't realize the brutality of what took place.
I tell people every day, that Stewart case killed my grandmother. She was 63 years young. She could never get her life back from that situation. That's why there's a street named after my grandmother, because that Stewart case killed my grandmother.
And no one was held accountable.
Nobody.
No one was held accountable. And so it encourages, there's no reason to think that the criminal, I don't call it justice system, the judicial system has changed. There's no reason to believe that it hasn't. They just get a bit more shrewd with what they did and how they did it, but no accountability.
I appreciate you guys, what you guys are doing today. I have a quick story and I guess a question. So I actually have a older brother who's awaiting sentencing for crimes he did commit, right? And it's turned my family upside down the last year and a half. Just turmoil in the relationship I have with him. You know, my number one since he was born 54 years ago. So, I guess my question is how do you guys all impacted your peers, your siblings, your direct family,
Your children.
Your children, anybody? How did that, while you guys, were in there, or you just went in there, or we sentencing, how did that impact your families? And what did that look like when you went into incarceration and when you got hurt?
I just learned firsthand from my cousin how it impacted him. I didn't even know that. Like, I saw what y'all saw. I want a copy of that video because I ain't never seen him. You see how stoic he is? That's how he is. Like, to see him break down in front of a bunch of people he don't know, he won't even do this in front of our family. So, I mean, that was eye-opening for me, the impact that it had on him, because I never knew that. you know? But today, I do the same thing for my nephew. I go get him, take him to his basketball games, you know, do things like that because I have 2 daughters and one of them was only 4 months in her mother's womb when I went to prison, the other one was 4. She contributed to me coming home because she used social media to get my case back out there for people to start talking again. And I was able to build with that child while incarcerated, but today it's sad because we don't even talk on the street. But through my whole journey of incarceration, we were so close that she literally helped me come home by putting my case back in the public eye. But today, we can't even understand each other. And it drove a wedge. So there's different impacts. He's very close to my daughter. He's closer to her than I am. And it's sad.
We have another question right over here. The trauma is unreal. That's definitely something we should reflect on and bring into our next conversation. We have a question, another question.
Hey y'all, thanks for being here. My name's Flo. So I just wanted to know, like, what ignited this conversation? Like, all of a sudden this became a topic. I've always heard that Mission Hill per se, I'm from Lawrence, so my homies in Boston, they always say like Mission Hill is terrible and they have like a very negative point of view. I always wonder what that is, but obviously this contributed to it. But it's been like that for such a long time, so why now is this being a conversation? I mean, I'm grateful that it is, but I'm wondering what ignited all that?
I want to say, injustice is the way that people are more aware of injustices. That's what ignites these conversations, because there are more people aware now, as opposed to some people might have thought, oh, he went to jail, he did it. But when you can look at and hear stories of we did not do it, it's so many more of us out there, you know, and these are the stories that have to be told, because if not, look at what happens, it continues to go on.
So obviously your daughter posting you on social media must have helped.
My daughter posted me on social media helped. You know, I was well known in Boston anyway. So once my daughter started posting me and it started getting people back interested in what's going on, you know, my best friend, he was dead. My best friend that was the shooter, he got killed in 2000. I should have been home in 2001. I got out in 2019. And I have a story because I got out April 30th, 2019, and my grandmother passed away April 30th, 1995. So I always say she must have made a deal with God and said, it's time, go and let him back out there.
Okay, Kayla, I know we have to go to lunch, but I do want to say the reason why we are here today, this moment, is because Kayla was in a class. Kayla, do you want to share? We'll take the next question and then we'll probably go to lunch.
Thank you so much.
And this is an example of what any of you can do. Everyone has a role.
We're all students. We all have this ability. This started off, I was sitting in Professor Jonathan Bennett's race, class, and gender course and followed up with post-colonial and diaspora studies. On the first day of class, I opened the book and I saw Charles Stewart's name mentioned the first page of the textbook. And it was two things. One, no one even knew who or what that case was, but more so that the absence of what that case represented and what my family went through, and what is happening right underneath our eyes, right underneath, like, I know that we're misrepresented in the media. I know that we are automatic criminals, that we are fighting for our innocence and trying to prove our innocence rather than, you know, being on the stage to prove us guilty. I know that, like, poverty is also simultaneously today being criminalized. And these are the things that we really need to focus on. While I appreciate, I think that whether you committed a crime or not, you are all innocent in the larger system. Because the system, it's the system that fails you. We went back to talking about when we were children, when we were kids, some of you were in the DCF system, but some of you were on the streets. That is all that comes from poverty, that comes from low socioeconomic situations. We are all but a step away from being incarcerated ourselves. And it's important that we are all educated on these things so we have a fighting chance. We need to come together as a community. So this was born from that. I wanted to share as much of that information as I possibly could and reach as many bases and ears, listening ears that are ready to hear this information and take it and go out. You're going to be doctors, you're going to be lawyers, you're going to be cops, some of you are going to be mental health clinicians. Let this guide you through in everything that you do. Don't forget this stuff because they're always trying to shift the narrative onto we are criminals. We're building, mass incarceration and mass deportation. Like I said at the beginning of this, it's a continuation of Jim Crow laws and slavery. We need to be on the same team now more than ever, and that starts. I think a piece of that starts with making sure that we are educated together, we are grounding together, we are learning, we are healing together. It takes a lot of moving parts, and that's why we have all the organizations out here as well that are already doing the work. We are flipping the script and taking the narrative back for ourselves. We are not super predators out here in these streets. I remember, we're not, you don't need to clutch your purse a little harder because I'm walking by you. It's right, it's time, we need to be on the same page to change that narrative. If we start by coming together. This is the first step.
Not only coming together, but sharing authentic information. You don't have to question what you're saying.
And just to tap into that, with my basketball program, I've got more kids from the suburbs than I've got city kids now. It's crazy. A lot of kids that's coming from Newton that, I don't know, maybe it's because my name's Adam and I'm black, so they go for that. Now, once I get a lot of kids from the suburb that come into the city to play basketball for my program. And they all know who I am, where I come from, I tell their parents you can Google my name and everything, but basically what you're saying, I feel like the world we're living in today, it's chaotic right now. It's crazy. We're all in the same boat. Just to let you know that the rich, the poor, everybody is. The world is showing us right now that war can happen, and that's why I named my thing "Fit for War." I survived a lot of stuff. You know what I'm saying? Right now, it's all about everybody surviving, no matter what walk of life you come from. And just to let you know, my walk of life is surviving because I've been through, like you said, sitting in prison. By myself, being a whole, the doors being shut on me, not knowing they're gonna open and stuff like that. I find ways through the community, through, being able to survive that stuff to manage. And I'm seeing people lose their mind right now that have a lot of money or, they haven't been in the positions I've been in. And they have to come to me to get, some of that strength to heal and to survive, you know what I'm saying? So, we're all here together now,
And then we just talked about the super predator thing. So I also was someone who was deemed a super predator at that age. And it just so happens that I came right around the same time as the privatization of prisons. And you can stop privatizing jails. And I found myself in Plymouth House of Correction, which was a private jail, in a juvenile unit, strictly there for murderers. I hadn't taken anyone's life. I was a juvenile being tried as an adult. So I just wanted to speak on that. It's right around the same time hip-hop just became all about gangster stuff and murder and violence. And the movies, we've seen it all, the mainstream, it all happened at the same exact time, late 80s, early 90s. And what was the product? Money.
Absolutely. Before we go to lunch, I think one of the common themes that we would invite you to think about is everyone here as a young person was suffering as a child. They were going through stuff, heavy stuff, and no one caught it. No teacher, no neighbor, like who? Because we are, as adults, are going through things. We know kids are scared. How are they making sense of stuff when we can't even make sense of everything? And so just keeping an eye out for the little kids. Are you okay? Do you need anything? You see someone with raggedy sneakers, like buy them a pair of sneakers. Like watch out. There's no way an adult shouldn't have caught them at a young age. He shouldn't have been a drug addict at 13 or 10, or drinking, or somebody in the neighborhood knew your mother was getting beat up. So if nothing else, and we'll talk about other strategies, but watch out for our babies, you know, because we don't know. They may look like they're good, or they may dress nice, maybe, but we don't know what they're going through, so keep an eye out.
But they were gang members, so I thought it was fair. I've been shot 4 times. Not no police ever came to interview me the 3 times that I got shot because they already knew there was retaliation gonna happen. So they didn't have to interview me. They were just gonna wait for me to figure it out and then they'd go lock me up. And that was my life, all the way up until 22. And then I went to jail. I done been through a lot, but I don't look what I've been through. So just, you know, just check on anybody, your neighbor, your grown-up, anybody. Just ask them, how your day going? You might not be surprised what you get out of that.
Community can go a long way. What'd you say? All right, and on that note, I would invite us to all join in conversation, to all of our wonderful organizations outside, grab a little lunch, and continue this important conversation with our panelists. Before we leave, let's have another round of applause for